Hi, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. Now today, what I'm going to be doing is giving you a market update for what is going on in Anchorage, Alaska. This is the biggest market we have in the area, and it continues to be a very interesting market. So before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like. If you haven't done so already, do subscribe to the channel so you can receive the most up-to-date market data on what's going on here in all the major markets. Now, without further ado, let's go and jump into today's market update. The first thing that we're going to look at is what's going on in specifically the residential market for Anchorage. Now, number one, the thing we need to check out is what is going on in inventory. So what we're seeing over here is last year there was about 535 homes that were on the market. This year, 275. So huge cut in inventory. We're going to talk why inventory is so important in the summary, but that's number one, low inventory across the board for residential for properties in Anchorage. The next thing we're going to look at is the number of properties that have actually sold. So keep in mind, inventory is really low and packed down at the moment, but that being the case, we are still seeing more houses sell this year than it did in the previous year, because there was about 230 last year. This year, about 253 that sold for the previous month of March. So that's thing number two. Number of properties that have actually sold does continue to go up year over year, even with the inventory being so low. Now, the next thing we're going to take a look at is just what's going on for the average sold price in Anchorage, because I know everyone's going to ask me about it. I've kind of talked about it before, why I don't really like this metric if all we're doing is looking at this one, but it's still important. So what we see over here, average sold price this time last year, about $402,000. This year, $414,000. So you see a little bit of an increase there, and that's good. It takes a lot to kind of sway the average sales price one way or the other to see a roughly $12,000 swing in the seller's favor is kind of a direction we would expect to see it go. But talk more about that in the summary. The next thing we're going to take a look at is what's going on for the condo market in Anchorage. So what we see is last year there's roughly about 280 condos that were on the market. This year it's closer to about 230. I think it's 232 if I recall correctly. So that's a step in the right direction for the condo market. Historically, it's been a little bit more of a bloated part of the inventory in the market in Anchorage. So for the first time in a while, we're seeing not as much inventory for condos in Anchorage. So that's number one. Inventory is down, not as much proportionally as it is for the residential market, but it is down. Now this is where it starts getting a little dramatic for the condo market, because we see over here this time last year about 98 condos sold. This year 126. So just like with the residential market, even though the inventory is down, we are seeing an increase in the number of properties that actually are selling. So that's pretty promising. Finally, let's take a look and see what's going on in the average sold price for condos in the municipality of Anchorage. So we see that average sold price did go up. That's something we would expect. It went up, not a whole lot, but it certainly did go up though. It went from about 222 to roughly about 228 for the average sold price this year. So not a huge swing there, but if you've been operating on a pretty close margin on a condo, this is definitely good news. Let's take a quick break real quick. I'm going to make this a regular habit of in these market updates kind of giving you a quick break and just giving you a quick real estate tip that I've seen coming from myself from just kind of working and dealing with real estate every day in this market. And the number one tip I'm going to give you is when you're in a real estate transaction, beware the trap of allowing yourself to get into the mindset of I always have to win. As soon as you find yourself getting into this mindset to where you feel like everything's just a competition, you've got to beat up the other side, and you see everything as a zero-sum game, it is probably going to fall apart at some point, okay? The reason I say that is because some people really get that mindset into their heads, and when they start doing that, it makes it very challenging to get everything done because the other side can sense that, and they might have been willing to cooperate before, but as soon as they feel it's turning into a competition, or you're just wanting to feel like you won on every little thing, then it is in fact going to turn into a very confrontational, very ugly transaction, and chances are it's going to fall apart. So yeah, that's really your tip of the day. When you go into these real estate transactions, beware of your own personality, and be aware of ways that you can possibly self-sabotage yourself by not being aware of this stuff. So that's your tip for the day. Let's jump back into the market update. Finally, let's take a look and see what's going on in the multifamily market in Anchorage. So this market is a little bit different, and what makes it different is because it's not like with a single family market or a condo market where it's just one type of property. With a multifamily, it incorporates everything from the duplex up to the apartment complex. So a lot more variation on what we're actually selling here, but just giving you a snippet of how we're doing on the market. We see over here less inventory that's available. Went from about 179 from the year before in the month of March down to about 137 for the previous year. So inventory is down for multifamily units in Anchorage. The second thing that we need to look out for the multi-units here in Anchorage is going to be the units sold. So we went from about 18 the year before to about 35 this year. So significant increase in the units that actually sold. And that's not too surprising. We'll talk about why that is in the summary. But suffice it to say now, demand remains high. Now this final chart here, I find it less useful than it is with the residential and the condo markets as a metric of seeing where we're at. But I do include it though, just for the sake of including it. So we see over here, average sold price went from about 407,000 up to about 400, and I believe it's 59,000 is where it's a current average sold price, at least for the month of March. So that's it's good if you're a seller. It means the demand remains high, and it's something we would expect for the two previous charts. I don't really rely too heavily on the average sold price if we're talking about sold prices for multifamily properties, and the reason for that is it does include everything from the duplex up to 30 plex commercial property. So it really incorporates a lot. You sell one of those bigger properties, it just throws all the numbers off. But there's definitely an upward trend. Let's go and wrap all this up in a nice little bow for you. So number one, on the residential market, demand remains high, okay? Demand remains high. We can see that in the number of units that's sold. It's up even though the inventory is down, and we're seeing the average sold price go up as a result of that. If you are looking at selling, there's probably not going to be a better time than in the next following months. If you're looking to wait until the summer market, I don't really see it getting much better. I don't see us having more buyers then than we do now, okay? Because they're just anecdotally, if I put a property on the market recently, we're going to have lots of showings, usually multiple offers within the first couple of days if we've done everything that we need to do. So if you're a seller, it's great. If you're a buyer, good news is interest rates do remain pretty low. So if you're able to get in with one of these properties, then that's great. You're probably going to be bragging about your interest rate on that property for years on end. What if you don't like dealing with multiple offers? Well, there's a couple options on that. Number one, tough luck, get into it, get it done. That's just part of it at the moment. The other option is we need to start looking at some off-market options. Way less predictable than the properties that are actually on the market already. But I have had some success there, so that's one way to try to get around it. But by and large, if you love a property, it looks good, be ready to compete for it, because you're not the only one out there that likes it. So let's look at the condo market now. It's very similar to the residential market, and that is the inventory is down and the demand is high, because we are still seeing that as as evidence, and the number of properties that are closing, even though the inventory is down and the average sold price is going up. So again, anecdotally, I've sold a number of condos lately. If we can get it on and get it fairly priced to where it needs to be, it is probably going to pin fairly quickly. So that's good news if you're looking at selling, if you're looking at buying. Again, not the worst thing ever. We just have to make sure that you're positioned in a way to get it. Now, for the third thing that we're given a summary on, which is the multifamily market, very similar to the others, we're seeing that there's still high demand, evidenced by the fact that we've got low inventory, more units that are closing though, and average sold price is going up. And the reason that multifamilies are so popular right now is because as an investor, if I know I can get under contract with a property right now with a low interest rate, that's awesome, okay? Because that's going to cut my margin overall for the entire course of the loan really low, and I'm not going to have to budget as much for paying the mortgage, which, if you're an investor, it is all about the bottom dollar, and that's really what you want. So that's why a lot of investors are looking to get into multi-family properties at the moment. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been useful. If it has, you know what to do. Give this video a like. If you have questions, do make sure you reach out to me on my Facebook page. Link for that is going to be down below. You can certainly definitely try to email me. No, I'm going to be very honest. I've got over 12,000 unanswered emails at this point just because I'm a realtor. I've got everybody trying to send me emails on stuff. Chances are it's going to get lost. Give yourself a much better shot and reach out to me on my Facebook page though. Other than that, I do host a podcast where we actually go into more detail about what it's like living here in Alaska, where I interview the people who are here, so do make sure to check that out. And until next time, thank you for watching, and I hope this was useful.